You can always tell when they're gossiping behind your back. It's in the way their voices drop as soon as you walk into the room, the sudden shift in energy that thickens the air. You don't even need to be told. You feel it, a prickling at the back of your neck. And Tara? She smiles at you, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. You can't put your finger on it, but you feel it. For weeks, it's been the same. The constant undermining, the whispers. You think you can rise above it, that your work will speak for itself. But when the promotion was announced and they gave it to her, I felt my world shatter. I didn't even get the chance to fight for it. Her smile, fake. But when I heard the words, "We've decided Tara is the better fit for this role," it was like a knife twisting in my gut. I kept my head down, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. My heart screamed to fight, to show them what I'm capable of. But my mind told me to wait, to be patient. What they didn't know was that their game was about to change. Hours later, at my desk, drowning in emails, I could hear Tara's laughter echo across the office. She was with her usual clique, pretending I wasn't even a threat. But I knew. Tara's gaze, cold and calculating, would linger just a second too long, marking her territory. And the next day, same outfit, same smile, acting like we were friends. But it wasn't friendship. She couldn't stand how easily things came my way, and she made sure everyone else saw me as a threat. I could feel their eyes on me, the judgment, the envy, no apologies, no recognition for what I had done. I had been there longer than Tara. I had earned their trust, the big accounts, but none of it mattered. Now, as the elevator ascends, I pull myself together. I'm about to walk into a room full of people who've underestimated me. Again. But this time, it won't be Tara taking the spotlight. I step out of the elevator. They think I've lost, but they have no idea what's about to hit them. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 90% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the story. I never sought the attention I got, but it was impossible to ignore. Being the quiet one in the room always felt like an advantage. When I spoke, people listened, though I could never figure out if it was my words they were hearing or something about the way I held myself. I didn't flaunt my looks, nor did I walk around with a sense of superiority, but somehow people noticed. And when they noticed, they gossiped. I can feel it now, the heat of their eyes on me as I walk into the office. It's always the same, a shift in the air, a small but sharp difference in the atmosphere. I can't explain it, but I can feel it every time. The whispers, the quiet judging that follows me like a shadow. Tara, especially. She had that charm that could make anyone believe she was your friend. The kind of friend who leans in just a little too close, asks questions about your life that feel too personal, too probing. I caught her more than once looking at me, eyes flickering between my face and my clothes, always sizing me up in a way that left a bad taste in my mouth. She was trying to figure me out, but I could never tell if it was out of genuine curiosity or something else. At first, I thought she was just being friendly. Maybe she saw something in me that she wanted to learn from, but the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. Over time, I noticed the cracks. I could feel the tension building, even when I tried to ignore it. She'd ask about my weekends, what I liked to do outside of work, but the questions always seemed to linger. Why was she so interested in my personal life? I would tell her something simple, but she'd ask again, with just a little more push, until the conversation felt forced. It wasn't overt, it was small, but I knew. Tara always acted like she had more experience, like she had something to teach me. When she wasn't making backhanded comments about how lucky I was, she was using every opportunity to belittle my accomplishments. It didn't matter how hard I worked, how good I was at what I did. She couldn't stand that I was getting the attention I wasn't even trying to get. And when I started to get noticed for my work, the kind of attention I wasn't used to, it didn't take long for Tara's true colors to show. She was quick to step in, quick to offer advice when she knew nothing about my process, quick to correct me in front of others, to act like she had all the answers. I could feel it, the shift in the room whenever I spoke. It was subtle, but it was there. Tara was never far behind, her eyes scanning me, looking for weakness. And when she found it, she pounced. I wasn't a player in the politics game. I never wanted to be. I just wanted to do my work. But Tara wasn't going to let that happen. She would walk over to my desk and point out a mistake in front of everyone. Never something huge, but always enough to make me look bad. Tara didn't need to make it obvious. She'd do it with a smile, like we were just two colleagues helping each other out. But the others? They saw, and they watched, and they believed it. And I started to feel it, the way the office grew quieter when I walked in, the way emails started being sent, but my name was always last on the list. The subtle digs. It hurt, but I didn't confront them. I couldn't. I tried to ignore it, but it kept happening. The whispers, the cold stares, the sense that everyone in the office knew something I didn't. I'd walk into meetings and feel eyes on me, conversations that stopped when I entered the room. They were talking about me again. I could feel it in my bones. Tara's influence was spreading, and I knew it. It wasn't just her anymore. The other women had started to pull away, and even the guys who had once joked around with me now kept their distance. I could hear the subtle clicks of emails being sent behind my back, the strange silences whenever I entered a conversation. They didn't need to say anything. I already knew what was happening. My desk became a place of solitude. I stopped going to lunch with anyone, choosing instead to stay behind, my fingers tapping anxiously against the keyboard. But it was getting harder to focus. Every keystroke felt like it carried the weight of everyone's judgment. Every mistake I made, no matter how small, felt amplified. Tara's attempts to tear me down were getting more calculated. She knew exactly what buttons to push. She'd come by my desk, pretend to offer help, but always with that hint of mockery in her voice. "Oh, I noticed you missed that detail on the presentation," she'd say, loud enough for others to hear. "It's fine, though. Happens to the best of us." Her words felt like daggers, each one more cutting than the last. And yet, I said nothing. I kept my head down, focusing on my work, knowing that the more I showed how much it affected me, the more they'd see it as weakness. But I could feel my confidence slipping away. It wasn't just the petty insults or the exclusion. It was the way my own manager, Steve, seemed to be taking Tara's side more and more. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but the more I watched, the more I noticed the little things. How he would smile approvingly at Tara's ideas while brushing mine off without a second thought. My instincts told me something wasn't right, but I couldn't prove it. The tipping point came a week before the promotion was announced. Our company was in the middle of a major merger with a much larger corporation, and the presentation I had prepared was meant to showcase potential collaborative work between the two companies. The executives from the merger company were sitting in the front row, their eyes trained on me as I laid out our marketing strategy, detailing how we could integrate with their brand. I could see the interest in their faces. I had their attention, the attention I'd worked so hard for. Just as I was about to finish my presentation, Tara interrupted with a pointed comment. It wasn't a mistake, not by any means, but the way she spoke, trying so hard to sound smarter by using unnecessarily big words. Her tone dripping with fake confidence. It felt deliberate. She wasn't adding anything useful, she was just trying to undermine me. I could feel my face flush. She was trying to sabotage me. The meeting wrapped up, and I could hear the murmurs as people started to leave. Tara walked by, and her eyes met mine. There was something almost satisfied in her gaze. It was like she knew she had won, at least in her mind. The worst part? I didn't say anything. I didn't correct her. I didn't stand up for myself. I just stood there, stunned, as my hard work was dismissed with a flick of her hand. But what they didn't know was that there was something bigger at play. It wasn't just the promotion anymore. I wasn't just fighting to get ahead. I was fighting to make sure they didn't destroy everything I had worked for. They envy what you don't even have to try. your natural ease, your quiet confidence, your mind that cuts through their assumptions without even trying. It's exhausting, this dance of knowing you're the center of their attention, and yet, somehow, never really seen. You wish you could play their game, but your gut, your intuition, tells you not to. They'll turn on you anyway, and so you stay quiet, let them believe what they want. But all the while, you know something bigger is coming. They won't see it coming. Not yet. I had prepared for this moment for weeks. I'd stayed late, pored over presentations, reviewed every possible angle of the project. I was ready. The promotion was mine. But when the announcement came, the ground felt like it shifted beneath me. My heart dropped, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. Tara's name was called. She smiled, too wide, like she was acting out a scene she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. The smugness on her face was unbearable. She didn't even look surprised. Of course she wasn't. She'd orchestrated every little step to this moment. I kept my gaze steady, forcing myself not to show the sting of betrayal, but I could feel the eyes of the entire office on me. The unspoken question hanging in the air. Why wasn't I the one chosen? The congratulatory remarks from the executives were a blur. They all clustered around Tara, shaking her hand, smiling at her, praising her dedication and vision. The words felt hollow, like daggers wrapped in velvet. I watched as she laughed and basked in their attention. Behind her, I could see her entourage of women, the ones who had always subtly edged me out, who'd whispered in the break room, laughed a little too loudly at my expense. They were all nodding along, wearing the same expression, approval. They had won. And I had lost. My stomach churned, and I could feel my hands clenching into fists at my sides. I swallowed back the anger, the bitterness that rose in my throat, but it didn't help. This was the moment I had dreaded. Tara, with her fake smile, her unearned charm, stepped forward, practically glowing. She knew exactly how to play the game. The worst part? I could already hear the whispers starting around the office. I could feel the tension in the room as people began to subtly distance themselves from me. The same people who had congratulated me a few weeks ago for my hard work were already turning their backs. Some didn't even make eye contact. They had made their decision, and I could feel it. I looked down at the ground, trying to keep my face neutral, but it didn't matter. Tara had won. She turned toward me with that sly, triumphant smile, her eyes gleaming with something between victory and pity. "You'll be fine," she said, like we were in this together. "Maybe next time." Next time, I could feel the heat rising to my face. Next time wasn't an option, not in her world, not in theirs. I turned on my heel and walked out of the room, not saying a word. I could feel their gazes on my back as I left, but I didn't dare turn around. The humiliation was palpable. It wasn't just Tara I had to face. It was everyone who had quietly, slowly dismissed me. As I made my way to my desk, I didn't bother looking up. I kept my head down, ignoring the slight shift in the air, the strange quietness that followed me. Tara's smirk burned in my mind, and it took everything in me not to punch the walls, to shout out, to tell them they were wrong. But I didn't. Instead, I sat at my desk, my fingers trembling slightly as I opened my laptop. I focused on my work, tried to ignore the voices in my head, the whispers, the looks. But even as I typed, I knew the truth. I had been passed over, and Tara had made sure of it. I walked past Steve's office, trying not to let my footsteps falter. Tara was there, of course, leaning against the doorway, laughing at something Steve had said, her eyes flicking to me as I approached. She smiled, the same fake, condescending smile she always wore around me. She thought she had won. I paused for just a second, standing at the threshold of Steve's office. The air inside was thick with tension, the quiet murmur of their conversation almost deafening. They were talking about me again. It wasn't hard to tell. I could feel it. Tara didn't acknowledge me at first, and I didn't acknowledge her either. But when she finally caught my eye, her smile slipped, just barely. She knew something was off. I cleared my throat, my voice steady, calm. "Steve, can I talk to you for a minute?" I asked, my eyes never leaving his. Steve glanced over at Tara, his brow furrowing for just a moment. I could feel the shift, the discomfort as he tried to decide whether to send Tara away or not. Tara, with her smug grin, pushed off the doorframe. "I'll just go grab a coffee," she said with too much sweetness, her voice dripping with faux concern. "Don't take too long." She turned to walk away, her heels clicking sharply on the floor. Her back was to me, and I could already see her relief. She thought this was going to be just another one of those moments where I'd come in and whine about the promotion I didn't get. She thought I was going to beg for something, but I wasn't here for that. I stepped into Steve's office, the door clicking softly behind me. I could feel my chest tightening, but I held my ground. The tension was thick, but this wasn't about Tara anymore. "I've decided," I said, cutting through the silence. "I'm giving my 2 weeks' notice." Steve's eyes widened, his jaw tightening. For a second, I thought he might speak, but I didn't give him the chance. Tara's smugness, her constant undermining, it had all led to this moment. The betrayal was still fresh, but it no longer stung. I wasn't the same person I was when I walked into this office months ago. "I'm sorry," Steve stammered. "But why? We just had a conversation about this. You dash. I'm leaving." I repeated, my voice even. "You've clearly made it known that I'm not the right fit here. And frankly, I've grown tired of pretending to fit into a box that doesn't exist for me. I'm moving on." Steve didn't say anything at first. His face flushed, a mixture of confusion and irritation crossing his features. But I could see the gears turning in his head, the realization that he was losing someone he never really appreciated in the first place. The door to his office opened behind me, and Tara stepped back inside. Her face faltered when she saw the expression on Steve's face. She walked over slowly, her eyes scanning mine with an almost predatory gleam. "You're really leaving?" she asked, trying to sound sympathetic, though the words didn't quite match the smugness behind them. "Yes," I said, standing taller now. "I'm leaving, but I'm not disappearing. I'll be fine, Tara. You'll see." Tara blinked at me, clearly trying to process what was happening. She looked at Steve, then back at me, her fake smile struggling to hold. It was as though she couldn't quite grasp why I wasn't reacting the way she thought I would. "Good luck with the promotion," I added, my voice dripping with thinly veiled sarcasm. I turned and walked out, knowing Tara's gaze followed me. I didn't need to look back. I could feel the weight of her stare, the disbelief in the air, but I didn't stop. I had a secret to hold on to. The meeting was set. The merger company's executives were flying in, and the final presentation was about to begin. I had already handed in my 2 weeks' notice, and today was supposed to be my last day, but it felt like the calm before the storm, my final chance to leave with some dignity, the last chapter of a story that had started with humiliation and betrayal. The room buzzed with anticipation as I walked into the conference room, the same one where I had once hoped to stand before a table full of executives, presenting my ideas. Instead, it was now a room full of people who thought they had already won, including Tara and her entourage of smug, judgmental women. Their faces lit up with satisfaction as they whispered about my upcoming departure, thrilled that I was leaving. They believed they had crushed me, that the promotion I had deserved was forever out of reach. I tried to hold back the anger bubbling inside me, the sting of Tara's smug smile flashing across my mind, but I refused to let her or anyone see the hurt. Today, I was playing the part I had to. I was going to walk out of here with my head held high. The executives from the merger company were seated at the head of the table, and as I looked across the room, my eyes briefly locked with Steve's. He looked uncomfortable, his jaw tight. He was already bracing for the fallout of my resignation, knowing full well that I'd had a better offer lined up, one he had no idea about. And then Tara entered, with her usual entourage of women following behind, their steps light, their expressions full of that same smug superiority. They had no idea what was coming. I took my seat at the back of the room, waiting, and as the meeting began, I could feel their eyes on me. The air was thick with expectation, as they all waited for me to either break down in a final plea or simply slink out of the room in defeat. I could almost hear the whispers in the back of my head, the voices from the past few weeks, telling me I would never be more than a footnote in their eyes. The CEO of the merger company stood, his voice strong and confident. Before we begin today's discussion, we have an important announcement. I could feel my heart pounding, but I refused to show any fear. This was the moment I had been waiting for. He continued. We've been watching this company's progress very closely, and we're thrilled to announce that someone here has impressed us beyond measure. We've been so impressed with her vision, her strategy, and her undeniable ability to lead. My stomach clenched, but I kept my face neutral. They were talking about me, and I could feel Tara shift in her seat, her expression quickly changing to confusion. She didn't know, not yet. The CEO turned to me, his eyes warm as he smiled. Lily, would you please join us at the front? A stunned silence filled the room. Tara's face dropped as I stood, but I didn't look at her. I didn't look at anyone except for the executives who were now watching me with awe in their eyes. I knew they were seeing something entirely different than what Tara and the others had. I walked to the front, my legs steady despite the pounding of my heart. The moment was finally here. The CEO smiled at me, the room still silent. It's our great honor to announce that Lily will be heading the marketing division for the merger company, he said, his voice resonating with pride. The shock on the faces of the people who had once dismissed me was unmistakable. I caught Tara's eye as I stood there, her smugness replaced by confusion and then embarrassment. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Lily will be leading the efforts to integrate our companies, the CEO continued, and she'll be directly reporting to us. In fact, Lily will be overseeing the entire marketing team, including those already in place at both companies. Tara, Steve, and the rest of the team will be reporting to her. I could feel the room shift. Tara's face drained of color as she realized the full extent of her defeat. The room erupted in applause, but I could barely hear it over the pounding in my ears. I had made it. I glanced at Steve, who was now staring at me, his expression blank. I could almost feel the weight of his guilt. Tara's entourage, still processing the shock, exchanged quick glances. I could see the disappointment on their faces, but it was too late. They had underestimated me, just like they had done from the beginning. I didn't say anything as I turned to leave. Tara tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She stammered something about how shocked she was, but it didn't matter. Nothing she said could undo the humiliation she had put me through. I didn't need to rub it in. I didn't have to prove anything. I had won. Months later, when the merger company's new division was thriving and my name had become synonymous with innovative leadership, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had led me here. The days of feeling invisible, overshadowed by politics and petty rivalries, were behind me. But even in my success, I never lost sight of one thing. Integrity was the foundation that carried me through. There's an easy temptation in office culture to believe that loud voices and big egos are the ones who make the impact. Tara had been the embodiment of that. She wore her confidence like armor, pushing others down in the process. But the truth? The ones who stay true to themselves are the ones who endure. It wasn't my sharpest words that secured my role, nor my power moves or flashy performances. It was my integrity, my willingness to stay humble even in the face of disrespect, and my ability to focus on the bigger picture that brought me success. It was about staying grounded, not chasing validation from others, but building something that could withstand any storm. It's tempting to believe that the loudest and most dominant will always win, that the ones who play the politics game and manipulate the system are the real victors. But as I looked at Tara from across the room, still struggling to assert herself despite the promotion she'd secured, I realized something. Ego doesn't win in the end. It may get you ahead for a moment, but it doesn't build anything lasting. True power comes from within, and it's built on a foundation of trust, respect, and authenticity. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Every moment of doubt, every step back, every subtle humiliation had led me here. To a place where I didn't need to prove myself anymore. To a place where I could finally stand tall and say, "This is who I am." And that, in the end, was the greatest victory.